You're live now.
We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge the shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Good afternoon and welcome to the County of Haliburton's Land Division Committee. My name is Liz Danielson and I'm the chair of the committee. I'd like to introduce you to the other members of the committee. Tammy McKelvey, a councillor at large for Minden Hills. Pat Kennedy, public member for Dysart et al. And Bill Donald, public member representing Algonquin Highlands. We are missing one member today, Bob Snyder, who represents Highlands East, who is on holidays. We're joined by our Director of Planning, Elizabeth Purcell, and our official Land Division Secretary and Treasurer and Planner, Adam Kozlowski. The meeting is held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. The purpose of the hearing is to give each applicant or their authorized agent the opportunity to discuss their application with the committee and to respond to written submissions which may have been received. It is also an opportunity for committee members to broaden their understanding of each application by asking questions. Members of the public who are participating virtually today may also make oral submissions to the committee, whether in support or opposition of an application. We hear the applications in the order that they were received in our office, and our planner will introduce each application and provide planning briefs. Then participants who have registered to address the committee will be admitted virtually to speak to the committee, and each participant will be provided 5 minutes to speak to the committee. With that, we'll now proceed with the agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Member Kennedy, Member Donald.
Be it resolved that the May 12th, 2025 Land Division Committee agenda be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the meeting of April the 14th? Member McKelvey and Member Donald.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the Land Division Committee meeting held April 14th, 2025 be approved as printed and circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. I will move into the applications that are for consent that are up for consideration. The first one being Murphy, who was applying for one new residential lot in Highlands East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will share screen with committee and walk you through the application. And I trust everybody can see the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So application number H01025 is for the lands of Murphy, located at 2849 Airport Road in the municipality of Highlands East. The application proposes to sever one new rural residential lot from a larger rural landholding, and the property is designated rural lands in the county official plan and zoned rural zone in the Highlands East zoning bylaw. Property is marked by this red star here, so it's about 5 kilometers north of Cardiff, and it's about 1.5 kilometers in from Loop Road, just east of Deer Lake. And just showing an air photo, so it is a large rural property. There are some wetland features and water courses at the south end of the property. In the staff report, there was some wetland pockets up here near the road, and I did walk the property and I shared some photographs in the site package indicating that there were no wetlands shown on the mapping. The property currently has a dwelling and various outbuildings, so it is developed. Okay, so the proposed severed lot is here, and it would have a frontage of 122 meters or 400 feet on Airport Road, and it would have a lot area of 4 hectares or 10 acres. And the retained lot would have frontage of 615 feet or 187 meters on Airport Road, and would have a lot area of 31.8 hectares or 78.5 acres. Highlands East Council has endorsed the application. There were no comments received from the public circulation or from agencies that were circulated. Staff visited the site. We have no objection, subject to the conditions in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do members of the committee have any questions for Adam? Hearing none, is there anyone online who wishes to speak to the application today, Adam?
Madam Chair, I have Rodney Geyer, who's in
Okay.
attendance.
If you'd like to bring him in.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm online or not.
Well, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, well, that's fine. You don't need nothing. You're not missing anything there visually. So, yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions. I did want to point out, Adam, that the traveled road at the northwest corner of the retained lands and widening are vested in the township. So his frontage on his retained lands is, I think, the 116 meters, whatever that converts to into imperial. But that's the only comment I had.
Oh, okay. So through you, Madam Chair. So when I did the frontage calculation, I took the straight line frontage on Airport plus that piece that was conveyed. I just added the two numbers together. That's where I came up with that.
Okay. Do the committee members have any further questions of either Mr. Geyer or Mr. Kozlowski? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the staff report and to grant provisional approval for the application? Member Kennedy, Member Donald.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the staff report related to application for consent H01025, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H01025, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
And Chair Danielson?
Yes. That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Geyer.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. The next application is from Hancock to create two new rural residential lots on White Lake Road in Minden Hills.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll share screen. Okay, applications for consent H01125 and H01225 are for the lands of Hancock. And this is a vacant property, part of lot 31 and 233, concession 1, Township Minden Hills. And the application would sever two new rural residential lots. The properties designated rural lands and zoned rural in the Minden Hills zoning bylaw. Just two other notes here. The property also in both the Minden Hills plan and the county plan had been mapped as having an area of mineral potential. And as a result, the applicant had to meet the official plan criteria, had to submit a mineral aggregate assessment report, which was attached to the package. And there were also wetland features. And as it turns out, there were butternut trees located on the property. So an environmental assessment was also completed and submitted with the report. So the property's basically in the southeast corner of Minden Hills Township, right across the line from Highlands East. And then to the south is County of Peterborough and Township of Trent Lakes, I believe, if I remember correct. And just looking at an air photo of the property, so it's a very rural area. There is some cottage development to the east on Salerno, but otherwise it's a fairly remote rural location. So the two severed lots are on either side of an existing small property here in the middle that has a cabin on it. So both lots have the same dimensions. Both are 200 meters of frontage on White Lake Road, and both have 2 hectares of lot area. So we're looking at 650 feet of frontage and just under 5 acres of lot area each. And then the retained part would be fairly large, 400 meters of frontage, and that's split between 2 frontages here on the east and west side. And it would retain 121 hectares, which is 300 acres. So Minden Hills planning staff and council have endorsed the application subject to the conditions of those studies, which were submitted. We did not get any public comments as a result of the circulation to neighbors or agencies. And as discussed earlier, an environmental impact study and the mineral aggregate assessment report were submitted in support of the application. Both studies indicated no negative impacts on the various official plan policies that apply to this lot. So staff recommend approval of the application subject to the conditions in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I believe that the author of the mineral aggregate study is in attendance as well, if there are any questions in that regard. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Kozlowski? Member McKelvey, sorry.
So I'm just trying to get, I read all these reports. I must say they're a little dry, but I bared with it. If you were trying to do that in a bathtub reading, you'd drowned, but I have to say, when you look at some of these, like Cambium's report talks about one butternut tree on the one property, and then I think the rest were on that other little lot that's not part of this. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. And then there was one tree on the retained lot on the east side.
So, so the applicant should have probably gotten rid of those because now he's going to be into a 30-meter setback for 2 trees. Is that, am I understanding that?
Yeah. So what the report does is it puts a 100-foot no disturbance buffer around each of those trees, and they are an endangered tree species, so they have to be protected. So in the site map, when you factor in that 100-foot buffer on the one severed lot and then the retained lot, it takes up very, very little of the actual development envelope. So they'll just have to steer clear of that tree, but it otherwise doesn't provide any hardships to develop the properties.
Okay, and then my other question is Grace and Associates. Part of their report indicates that the identified area is not an area of primary or secondary importance. And as such, the pre-consultation report incorrectly identifies the need for this study.
Through you, Madam Chair. So that was the terminology used in the pre-consultation report was that it was a mineral aggregate study. So in other words, sand and gravel. There's nothing mapped on this property as having sand or gravel potential. It's the metallic mineral component. And in this case, Mr. Grace is here in attendance. He could probably speak to it in more detail, but the only metallic mineral deposit is located north up near Salerno Lake, and it's greater than 1 kilometer away from this property. So just to summarize, what Mr. Grace has pointed out is that the terminology on the report type was incorrect. It was to be a metallic mineral assessment, not an aggregate assessment.
Did you have a further question, Member McKelvey?
I'm just trying to figure out again. So was a study of some sort actually required for this?
Yes. Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, because this property is completely within an area mapped as metallic mineral potential. So they did an assessment basically of bedrock geology as opposed to a sand gravel deposit.
Any other questions for our planner? If Mr. Grace is here, if you maybe want to bring him in. Is Mr. Hancock here?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have Mr. Hancock is here as well as Thomas Grace, who wrote that report.
Okay, if you want to bring them in and they can make any comments that they would like to add.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm Thomas Grace from Grace and Associates Inc. So we wrote the mineral resource impact assessment for this. As was pointed out, it was based on an aggregate initially when we were looking at the report. So we just wanted to make sure that that was clarified, that we were actually doing a mineral study as opposed to an aggregate study. But in essence, whether or not a report needed to be done, that was my understanding, that because it was already mapped as having mineral potential, that's what we addressed. So we had conversation with the municipality and proceeded to prepare our report accordingly.
If I might ask, if there was a requirement for a mineral study to be done, I'm just trying to figure out how the butternut tree came into.
So that would be part of the environmental impact study that was completed by Cambium. So that was a separate issue. And so they've identified, they would go through the species at risk, wildlife habitat, ecological land classification, so that they could identify what the constraints were on the property. And they identified a number of butternuts with a 30-meter setback radius. So those have all been addressed within their report. And obviously there was sufficient available development space left on the property.
Do committee members have any questions for either Mr. Grace or Mr. Hancock? Or maybe I should allow Mr. Hancock, if you have any comments that you'd like to make before questions?
Thank you very much. Just through to the committee, I actually have read the report. Basically, we had prepared the studies as part of the requirement by the Township of Minden Hills for after the pre-consultation. So we have no issues with the report or the recommendations. So, and I have Thomas here, hopefully to, answer any other questions you may have.
Any questions from committee members? Hearing none, then could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the staff report and provide provisional approval for both applications? Member McKelvey and Member Donald.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton receive the staff report related to applications for consent H01125 and H01225, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H01125, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report, and that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H01225, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
And Chair Danielson?
Yes. That's carried. Thank you both Mr. Grace and Mr. Hancock for being
Thank you.
available to answer questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And any other business that we need to discuss?
I have a question for Adam.
Okay.
Adam, the cash in lieu that I see in these reports seems very low. Is it still based on 5% of the value for a residential property?
Yeah, good question. The cash in lieu is typically a township condition. Now, to your question, municipalities do it differently. Sometimes it'll be 5% of the assessed value of the lot on the day before it was severed. Other places have a flat fee, which I believe Minden Hills has.
Okay.
So they'll say, 1,500 or 2,000, whatever the number is.
Okay. But it's not based on the current market value of the severed lot created.
No,
No.
let me just, I'm just going to take a look at that condition here just to. Yeah, so it says cash in lieu of parkland dedication in the amount of 1,500 for each new lot. So that's a
Right.
flat fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anything else committee members would like to bring up under other business? Member McKelvey?
I just find it difficult to understand, like there's this rumor out there we have a housing shortage and we can't deal with the housing shortage without allowing lots to be created. And it just, it's just a nightmare to try and get through all these conditions. And I get discouraged for the poor people trying to do this.
Well, and I would comment that it would, a lot of the applications that we've seen for severances in the last number of months have been for large parcels, and that to me look like they're for single family residents or rural single family residences, and not really meeting the needs of affordable housing or multi-unit developments. And so it makes it that much more challenging for us to meet the needs that the province is placing on us.
Yeah, and through you, Madam Chair, to the committee. So I guess Chair Danielson, you recall I did that report to council a month or so ago, which was the land division update for the year. And by far, we're creating more lots in the rural areas than anywhere else. The shoreline development has died right down. We're in single digit lot creation. But by far, and even in the settlement areas, we only created less than a handful in Minden and Haliburton. Vast majority is now this rural residential demand, it seems. So it is interesting. You would think that we would get a lot of demand in places like Minden where there's water and sewer, where you can create smaller lots and you're close to amenities, but we're getting lots that are far away from service centers. So it is interesting.
Yeah, and challenging.
Yeah, and challenging. Yep.
I know for municipalities like, for instance, Highlands East and Algonquin Highlands that don't have any core town areas or substantial. Well, Algonquin Highlands has no services. Highlands East has a small area of services, but it just until there's some changes and things like communal servicing are approved for us to go ahead with, we're going to have challenges, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that the latest provincial policy seems to be suggesting that the previous kind of tight hold on rural development seems to be loosening a little bit. They've changed the policy for some of the rural areas, suggesting that maybe more development could be accommodated, but again, servicing is the key. That's the big one.
Well, and loosening things up in rural development does not help us at all when we're looking to develop affordable housing, where people need to be close to services of other than water and sewer. It just seems like we're in a bit of a catch-22 circumstance. Back to our brief discussion that we had earlier about official plans. Adam, do you think, or Elizabeth, do you think that there's any benefit to the land division making a recommendation to county council that there be greater consideration given to moving ahead with one consultant for all official plans, or dealing with one solid official plan with some sub plans that might deal with some of the unique aspects of each of the lower tiers?
I can handle this, Adam.
Thanks.
So there definitely is a benefit, particularly in the context of the county. Right now there are some non-conformity issues between the local municipalities and the county official plan, which does create some conflicts every once in a while with what's permitted where and what's not. Some municipalities do have one official plan with secondary plans for each of the local municipalities inside of it. So it still gives that uniqueness and kind of autonomy to each municipality, but it ensures consistency so that everyone's kind of on the same page. And it also, in the creation is a bit of a economy of scale, right? If you have just one consultant, then there isn't 5 different municipalities creating plans and having those expenses to do so, and streamlines obviously the approvals too, because it's one go with approvals and appeals and all that. So there is definitely a benefit to it, I would say.
I know that there has been some kind of broad discussion about it at the county council, but I just would ask the members' consideration for passing a resolution recommending that we proceed with one official plan just to sort of reinforce the discussions that have taken place. And of course, they will do with our recommendation what they will, but I don't think it would hurt to reinforce that as a recommendation from the committee. Thoughts, Member McKelvey?
I definitely would support there being one official plan in the county of Haliburton. Of course, I would support county planning, period, but I don't know that we want to get that detailed in this resolution, but
Let's move with single official plan first.
okay, that's fine by me. I would definitely be pleased to put that forth.
Would there be a seconder in that regard? Member Kennedy? All in favor? That's
Do we need
carried.
to hear what the resolution is going to say first?
Maybe you could scribe or draft something up for us, Elizabeth. It doesn't need to be complicated, just that the committee recommends that we recommends to council that they proceed with one official plan that covers both the county and the lower tiers, which could include or would include sub-plans should they be required by the lower tiers. Does that sound sufficient?
Sure. Could we just go on a short break so Adam and I can craft that for
Sure.
everyone, and then we'll come back?
I'm just thinking out loud here as well. Or because we've passed a resolution to create a resolution, is this something we could draft up and present to the next month committee under other business so that we have time to look at it? And if there's discussion on the wording, we can have it at the meeting.
I think that would make sense.
Sure.
Okay.
Give time to give it more thought.
Yeah, because I just think if we do it on the fly here, if we put some thought into it, and present it next month.
Okay.
If the director's okay with that.
Yeah, that's sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, if everyone is okay with that, we can have something on the agenda for next month.
Okay, that's great.
So it's kind of like a notice of motion at today's meeting then for the next meeting.
Yeah, so basically there's been today was preliminary discussion on creating a motion of this nature. And so it's been unanimous that you would like to see something, and we will prepare that for next month for discussion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Are all members available for the June 9th meeting? Okay.
Yes.
That leaves us with nothing left on the agenda but adjournment, unless there is anything else that committee members wish to discuss. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Member Donald.
Be it resolved that the May 12th, 2025 Land Division Committee meeting be hereby adjourned.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great
Enjoy
afternoon.
the afternoon.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to Google butternut trees.